Mm, Am I live? Wow, we're live once again. Happy Monday, people. Happy Monday, happy Monday, happy Monday. Let us share. Let us share. Welcome back to the Damien Jones podcast. I'm your host, Damien Jones. We talk about news, politics, and life in a fun and unadulterated way on this wonderful show. And we have a great conversation for you today. A very good conversation today. Take a moment right now and share this broadcast. Share this broadcast. We are in the midst of the Democratic National Convention happening, kicking off tonight. And I know so many of you are excited as well. And you should be excited. You should be excited to talk about that. And so we're going to hear from so many different speakers throughout the week in terms of the Democratic National Convention. And some of you are angry that some people didn't make the convention speakers list, and I understand that. But we have a lot to talk about. And so, but what we want to discuss today, what are the needs of the black male voter? What are the, so I'll be joined by two great gentlemen shortly who give us their take, but make sure you share this broadcast. Make sure you like this broadcast. If you are watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe right now. But I had a great weekend, barbecued a little bit, played some golf, so forth and so on. Folks, make sure you are registered to vote. See my nice little t-shirt. Make sure you are registered to vote. But come on in this room so we can have a robust conversation on today. We've seen so many pundits talking about different things. We're excited about the new vice presidential pick with Senator Kamala Harris, and women are excited. Women are excited. Women are energized. Women are pumped up about this pick, but particularly, what are the needs of the black male voter? So come on in the room. I'm joined by right now my good friend Damien Walker, who is a community champion and a very engaged African American male in the state of Texas. And so, Damien, welcome to the podcast. How are you, sir?
Doing good, doing good. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. Thank you for answering the call, as always. And so, I know you're pressed for time, so I want to get right into it here, Damien. And as folks are coming into the room, folks, make sure you are sharing this broadcast. Make sure you are liking this broadcast. Your first time watching with us, give us a thumbs up, give us a like as well. But there's been so much conversation the last several years, and we know in the Democratic Party, we know in politics in the electorate period that the African American vote is so important, and we cannot overlook it. We cannot take it for granted. And given where we are in this country with so much racial unrest, and we have to pay more and more attention to the needs of African American voters, there's been a huge emphasis on the African American woman and the needs of the woman. And women are running for Congress in historic rates. Women are winning local office at historic rates, and rightfully so, because we know what women bring to the table when they are placed in leadership positions. But the underbelly of when you focus on one group, with anything, you focus on one area, the underside is that you will unintentionally neglect or forget about another area. And I think in this particular case that we aren't hearing conversations uh, uh, built toward the African American man and his needs in terms of turning out to vote. So from your view, I mean, what are the needs? You as a voter, as an African American man, what are some of those things that you need to hear from a candidate to earn your vote, Damien?
I think what I need to hear from a candidate now are the concerns of, personally for me, the criminal justice, of course. What are the plans for criminal justice? But before I even get too much into that, I want to go back to a point. I think we talked about it maybe months ago. It's time out for information and time for education.
Yeah. What do you mean by that?
We're talking about the African American man. You're talking about a group of individuals who may not have exercised their right to vote as much as another group. And so when you have centuries or you have generations of African American men not voting or being miseducated about electoral colleges,
Mm-hmm.
or does our vote count?
Mm-hmm.
Now you want to give people information, but let's educate. So sometimes you have to re-educate. So I think
Mm-hmm.
at this time it's time for individuals like yourself and others to re-educate a generation who was informed by the previous generation that didn't vote. And
Mm-hmm.
that's costing us. There's a commercial now about the NFL. 60%. I'm just only going to block 60%. Or Deshaun Watson saying I'm only going to throw 60% of my passes or complete 60% of my passes. Sometimes, if we can get that other 40% or that other 20%, or if those numbers are correct, nevertheless, I'm saying we need to make sure that the population, this generation,
Yeah.
understands that we need to register,
Yeah.
we need to stand in line, or
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's going on with the mail-in ballot, but nevertheless, we need to cast. The term casting your vote. We can go fishing and cast our fishing rod, but we need to make sure that we cast our vote. And if those that don't know, now is the time to not be afraid and ask questions, because if the authorities pull you over, sometimes you're afraid. Now is not the time to be afraid. So let's go ahead and, Damien, all of us, do our best to educate the generation right now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, you make great points, and so something you just mentioned a moment ago, Damien Jones podcast, talking to Damian Walker about what are the needs of the African American male voter, often overlooked. So much emphasis on the African American woman, but in order, if folks think Democrats think they're going to beat Donald Trump in November, you're going to have to get all groups to
Mhm.
come out and be energized to vote. But you mentioned the criminal justice reform, and I know,
Yeah.
given your experiences in life, that's very important for you. But you talk about that miseducation, and what I think I heard was, in terms of criminal justice reform, there were so many young men who were caught up in this
Exactly.
three strikes law, kind of over penalized, taken away from their families for a long time for whatever the reason, and then they were told that they couldn't vote. They were
Yes.
told if you were ever a felon, you could not vote. And so, is that what you're talking about in terms of kind of re-educating, if you will?
Re-educating that, because at some point, like you're saying, people thought they couldn't vote.
Mm-hmm.
So now when you leave TDC, or when you are paroled to TDC actually sends you a voter registration card with your parole certificate. So they start that process. So now for those that may have been off parole for 5 years, and Damien, we have to understand that the guys and girls, and we talk about the men, they no longer care about voting, because
Mm.
their rights were taken away for
Yeah.
mistakes and choices that they made at a certain time. And so they've seen the elections, they've seen this. This is a part of their life. These are conversations that they have, but they choose not to exercise their right to vote. And it's almost like you penalize me by taking away my right. So now I'm going to penalize my people or my community or my system by not voting. So I'm going
Yeah.
to penalize somebody by not exercising the right. So it
Well,
is that.
yeah, but let me ask you this: is there a can? And I know you don't speak for the entire community, the formerly incarcerated community, right? But is there a candidate that speaks to your values in a certain way? Is there a particular candidate that
At
speaks
this
to
point,
and that gives hope in terms of reforming that criminal justice system?
you have the individual. Are we talking locally on a national level?
Well, I mean, I want we can talk nationally, but if there are local folks as well, but I would love to hear your perspective from a national standpoint.
So I'm still getting more of the national standpoint right now, because it's now it's starting to pick up. Now people's
Hmm.
agendas are starting to come out. So I'm still getting that. We know what has been said over years, but now I'm starting to get more of what the national standpoint is. So I would say more so locally. Of course, I would always say Harold Dutton, because he works tirelessly for those juveniles.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
that was my thing. I was a juvenile when I was incarcerated. So what I would think that needs to happen is individuals like that we can support in these in these local races. So right now it's mainly him. There are a couple bills that are coming out,
Hmm.
and I think that's what's important. So we're talking about the individuals, but let's also talk about the bills that are going to come up at this next session, because I was at the last session when a bill that we started at the Anthony Gray Small Justice Speakers Bureau that was passed the first time it went through. So let's start talking about these bills and let's get behind that, because again, education. As long as I've been in Texas, I've never been to those sessions. And to see what happens at those sessions is educational. And I was 41 at the time. For a 41-year-old Texan, first time to go and just see everything at that particular time, it was amazing. So we have to understand, what are we fighting for? So that's kind of what I want to get to, because individuals are supporting these bills nationally and locally, but let's see what affects our community.
Damien Jones podcast, talking with Damien Walker, hoping Bruno can fix his technical stuff and come on in with us in a moment here. But talk to me about this. I mean, another prevalent issue facing America is police reform. Police brutality. We saw what happened to our brother George Floyd. We saw what happened to Rayshard Brooks, and we can name thousands of others, Tatiana Jefferson, Breonna Taylor, so forth and so on. Is this an issue? And I know you have children. Yes. Is this an issue for Black fathers? From your standpoint, is this a big issue to you that will help you when you make your decision at the ballot box in November?
It's so much of an issue for me. I'm looking at young men and women that don't have father figures as I become a better father figure, a better man, a better member of society to mentor, to adopt. I'm looking for the fatherless at this particular point in my life to help out where I can. It's that much of an issue where I think about my 6-year-old daughter and you try to instruct her as she's 20. And she's not going to get the lesson at 6. But because I've been teaching her since she's been 3, when she gets 13, it'll all click for her. So you're preparing at this point. We're preparing for 10 years, 12 years down the line in case something happens in their life and we're not there. You have to educate now. So it's such an issue. I was raised and I wasn't the best kid. I was in the streets doing things that I shouldn't have done. And I've been beat by HPD. I've been whooped by HPD. I've had my face on a hot hood because of things that I've done, or because of who I've been with, or because of areas that I've been in. And nobody prepared me for that. Though I was in a negative light, I was doing things in a negative light. There was a long time before I recuperated from being whooped by HPD.
That trauma, right?
I was 15 or 16. And I initiated some of the stuff. I was wrong, but I gave up, but I still was assaulted by law enforcement. So when I think about my daughter, if she does something wrong, or a kid that I see, if they do something wrong because they don't know, it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking what's happening right now. So I am very concerned about criminal justice reform, about police reform. I do pay a lot of attention. I always tell people that I'm surprised at how many individuals in law enforcement that I have in my phone that I've had conversations with. I can pick up and call a lieutenant in HPD, or call somebody in Harris County and have a conversation just to see, man, what are y'all thinking?
So you connected like that, brother. You connected. Everybody ain't able, man. Everybody ain't able, you know. This is Damien Jones podcast, talking with Damien Walker, community leader right here in Houston, Texas, formerly incarcerated brother who has been released from prison and is really, really blessing our community. And I'm blessed to have him on speaking with us today for a few minutes. What about the economy? Talk to me about the economy. Is I still try to work Bruno in here. Bruno, you gotta fix your camera some type of way. I get you in here. But the economy now, before coronavirus hit, you know, the economy was humming. The economy was doing very well. Stock market was going very well. You know, jobs were abundant, if you will. But then coronavirus kind of shut that down, if you will. From the standpoint of a Black male, as a Black father, is the economy an important issue as you go make your decision on November 3rd?
Very much so, because we're going into, and we're already seeing it. We've been on quarantine, what, 5 months? So we're already seeing how many people are opening up business. We're seeing how many people are losing jobs. We're seeing the way that restaurants are changing. If people don't know, Houston per capita, I think, has the most restaurants of any place in the world, or we're top three or something like that. So we're seeing how restaurants, and I just started venturing back out, but we're seeing how restaurants are changing the way that they serve individuals. I was a waiter at one point, and I made $700 a week in tips. Like, how does that happen right now? Unless you're a big, huge business that's really figuring it out. So economy is so important, because now, do I really engage in my business? Do I take my main income and I put some of that to the side and I start buying merchandise, or I start providing services, or I start investing in my social media? These are questions that I have to have now. Before, it was just conversations. This is stuff that I have to research. I have to spend time after I get off work researching. Do I do Facebook ads? Do I do Instagram ads? Do I go and become a part of the Black Chamber of Commerce, because it's going to give me the ability to network with other vendors? So the economy is not only important, but now you have to ask a different type of question. So now I have to have different type of groups. I have to pay attention to other type of stuff. So because it's changing so much, now you have to change. But how does somebody, Damien, in the last 5 months, how do you change so much with your business to where you have to research in a whole different way?
It's difficult. It's extremely difficult. Brother Kevin Bruno, can you hear us?
I can, bro. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Good deal. See, coronavirus has hit Kevin's camera, and so we don't know what's going on. Yeah, we don't know what's going on with the camera, but we can hear your voice, brother, and we're blessed that you can join us. Just kind of having this conversation around what are the needs of the Black male voter. Damien has been blessing us with some information, but to bring you in here, Bruno, what's the top issue that's most important to you as a Black male voter as you go make your decision in November?
I think kind of along the same lines of what Damon was talking about, because I think one of the main things that Black males need to be concerned with is the way that we are denigrated by the law enforcement, and just denigrated period as being Black Americans, being Black men in America. So the biggest thing for me is that we need people in office at this point who are not afraid to first and foremost address that issue, call it what it is. If we're calling it all these different names and all this other stuff, we're trying to make it politically correct and address it for what it is. Call it what it is, and then address it for what it is. I think the biggest thing for me has always been I never want to be in fear of anything.
Okay.
But even now, after being out of prison for 10 years, if a police officer pulls up behind me in a vehicle, I immediately tense up.
Yeah, we all do.
I know that. Because I know that there is a certain amount of inequality in the way that they will handle me versus how they will handle another gentleman or my white counterpart.
Right.
So for me, the biggest thing for me is the fact that we need to address this and not address this on a surface level. We need to address this, in the most in-depth level that we possibly can, because it's something that right now, this is one of the things I think that keeps Black men separated from mainstream. We don't want to be involved in the so-called oppression of our own oppression.
Well, let me ask you.
Go ahead.
Let me ask you this. Given what you're talking about, is there a candidate right now that is speaking the loudest to that on the national level? Who's the candidate on the national level, that's running for president, that's speaking the loudest and speaking the language that you want to hear?
Well, let me piss everybody off, Dane. Is that okay with you?
Sure. Hey, I want honest opinions here, man. I wish they could see your face.
I do too. Let me help you out with this. A lot of people talk noise about Kamala Harris because Kamala Harris supposedly was so gung ho with law enforcement, was so gung ho with laws that pertain to the imprisonment and the punishment of individuals who went to prison or went to jail or went to court. Let me help you as one of those individuals. I went to prison for almost 30 years. I did what they said I did. I earned what they gave me.
Okay.
So for me to scream and holler about her being pro incarceration and pro this and pro that and use that as an excuse not to support her is crazy, because I did what I did. I committed those crimes. Now, if there is a case where she has used her influence or her power to unjustly prosecute and persecute African American men or men and women of any color, then I stand against her. But I don't want you to be in the White House and someone say you were soft on crime because these were your people. The same laws that you apply to everyone, I'm fine with you applying those laws to me. Kamala Harris hasn't done anything, I think, hasn't done anything that any other politician or any other person who would be in law enforcement would have done or would not have done.
Okay.
I'm in full support of her and her agenda. Is she the perfect candidate? Absolutely not. Is Joe Biden the perfect candidate? Absolutely not. But do I hold their shortcomings against them? Absolutely not. Because let me be honest with you, Dane. You could have put a monkey up there with a suit on, and I'd have voted for him over Trump. So,
okay. So, Walker, talk to me. Do you agree with that assessment, or are you on the Trump side? Where are you in that mix?
Well, as I get ready to get off here in the next couple of seconds, I'm a conservative liberal, so I always go with that. So I've hardly ever supported a candidate publicly, but most likely I'm going to be strictly Democrat on this one because of what I've been able to see. As I've been able to vote for the first time. Y'all know I just started voting, so it feels.
That's right. Yeah. This is your first time voting in this primary, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So
great.
To feel like an American citizen, that my rights have been restored, it feels so good. So I do like what I'm seeing coming from that camp. But as I told somebody before, I was voted and Biden supported that bill. I was once labeled a super predator. So the ability, so knowing that he was the one of the individuals that supported that bill and championed that bill for the juveniles to be labeled super predators, it's difficult for me to say I'm going to vote for Joe Biden because at one point, because of research, as I get off the Damien Jones podcast day, research sentenced me to 25 years. I had 125 years that was run concurrent. I did 17 years. Because of research, I was labeled as a super predator. And now I have an opportunity to vote for one of two individuals. One that labeled me as a super predator that I was convicted of 4 crimes that I didn't do and one that I did do. Or I have the opportunity to vote for a reality star that is currently our president. So
some tough choices, brother.
It's deeper for me. I got to get off right now, but it's deeper for me. See?
Hey, bless you, man. I appreciate we gonna have you on again, man. I appreciate you, man. Go handle your business, man.
Right,
appreciate you, brother.
All right.
All right, Dane.
All right, brother.
So Bruno, you heard
that
assessment. That's a tough choice. And let me tell you something. Like, so I told folks, Damien Jones podcast, talking with my good brother Kevin Bruno. And I know you got to hop off in a little bit too, Bruno. But I told folks I'm just one of my biggest hangups on Joe Biden and the Democratic ticket is his involvement in the 1994 crime bill, and Damien just alluded to it. 20 he served 17 years of a possible 125 years because of those mandatory minimums, and we just finished talking to him. He is a great brother. So for Black males who were a part of that or their families were affected by that, maybe you had a family member incarcerated in such a way, how can you now get behind such a person who wants to leave this country because they've already shown you what they will do in terms of criminal justice? And I know you have a different perspective on it, particularly. But can you understand that viewpoint where Damien came from?
I understand wholeheartedly. I understand. Believe me, I understand wholeheartedly. And there are people who would give Trump some credence whereas the Second Chance Act was passed under his administration, but it wasn't Trump. See, I mean, this was Kushner's way of helping his father out. This had nothing to do with black people. This had nothing to do with Trump. So I want people to understand that. Here's what I need people to get behind, Dane. Everybody called Clinton the first black president.
Please, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, black folk got behind Clinton and called him the first black president. Guess what he did? He went right in the office and said, "Look, we three strikes and you out.
3 strikes, lock him up and throw away the key." And he's still talking to us about it.
And not only what is it 3 strikes and you out, you can't even move into the projects anymore. So if your family is in the projects and you need to move somewhere, you can't live there.
Right.
Even right now, today, you have black men getting out of prison who have done years and years and years of prison and can't get an apartment because they were incarcerated.
Yeah.
They can't find anywhere to live because they were incarcerated. And all of this, the majority of this came up under George Clinton. I mean, Bill Clinton, talking about George Clinton. Yeah. He acted like George Clinton. About Bill Clinton, his administration. So I understand. I understand the mindset. I understand I hold bitterness also. I hold some bitterness in my heart towards what everyone has done as far as because although I was guilty, there were grave injustices done in my case.
Yeah,
and
we don't have to you may have been guilty, but that doesn't mean you deserve to be overcharged.
Right,
and treated as less human. Right.
My first offense, they charged me with aggravated robbery and gave me an aggravated 25-year sentence. There was a man who got sentenced at the same time as me, white gentleman, who had a rape, a robbery, a sodomy, kidnapping, and 2 more offenses, and got 19 years.
Yeah.
I was the first offender.
But here's, let me say this though, Bruno. But these are the things when people come to me and say, "Oh, we need to forgive Biden or Clinton or whomever," these folks who are signing these vicious crime bills, and people aren't listening to the perspective of brothers like you and Damien. These people aren't locked up and being overcharged, and so it's just not as easy for y'all to come out and look at a Joe Biden who resembles the face of mass incarceration and say, "Yes, hope on the tightrope. I want to get behind this." This is tough. As Damien just said, either you choose that or you choose a reality star who's trying to screw up the Postal Service.
Let me leave you with this on my way. They calling me for a staff meeting, but let me leave you with this.
Yes, sir. Go make your money.
With this. Although there is a great deal of resentment in my heart for a lot of what the crime bills have been over the years, Damon, there is nothing that they could have done to me during those years that would make me choose to allow Trump to persecute me and my people for 4 more years. And it's not about forgiveness. It's about us creating a bridge that would take us to the next step.
Yeah.
Rather than allowing Trump to plunge us deeper and deeper into this abyss. Right now, Biden is the tool that we need to use to be able to get to the other side. He's just a ladder or a step that we need to use to get to the other side. I don't care anything about his past. I don't care anything about his future. I care about him being able to get Trump out of office so that we, at that point, can create our own.
Yeah.
See, that's what I need to come on here and talk to your viewers about, because we're constantly talking about the people that we have are not qualified. But we're not creating people that we want to put into office.
That's true. We're not developing. That's true.
So if you're gonna complain about who's available, then and you want something better, then you need to create that. You need to develop those people.
That's very true. That's very true, brother. I know you gotta go make your money, man.
I got to go, man.
I appreciate
Man, I
you.
love you, bro. I appreciate you, man.
We have you back when your camera's working.
Absolutely.
See your face, but appreciate you, Kevin Bruno, Damien Walker. Appreciate you all coming on the show. And so you heard those conversations, people. My good friends, Damien Walker, my good brother Kevin Bruno, who two formerly incarcerated brothers. Bruno did 30 odd years locked up in prison. Damien Walker did 17 years. And so I wanted to just ask them, Katina Person, I appreciate you tuning in and kind of giving us your thoughts. What are the needs of the black male voter? Now we can, we look on the different media outlets and we're talking to our professors, our African American male professors who are very brilliant. We're talking to our middle class UPS worker and teacher African American male. Okay, getting their perspective. We're talking to various, we're talking to athletes, we're listening to the LeBron James and those type of guys, right? We're listening to the hip hop artists and getting their perspective. But oftentimes we don't get the perspective of the formerly incarcerated. We talk so much about criminal justice reform in this country. We use that as our lead issue, criminal justice reform, breaking the back of this racist system. But very few times do we put these brothers on a platform and say, what are your needs? How are you feeling? Oftentimes we just speak for them. And so I'm so grateful that those brothers came, and you heard two different perspectives. One brother said, hey, I'm not going to tell you publicly, but, Biden, and his policies did some tough things for me. 17 years for something I didn't do. And so I may go toward Trump. But then the other brother said, hey, I did everything they said I did. I was overcharged, but at the same time, he said I would vote for a monkey in a suit before I vote for Donald Trump. And so the experience, the viewpoint of the formerly incarcerated person is not a monolith. Black folks, regardless of what Joe Biden says, Black folks are diverse. No matter your walk of life, no matter where you come from, no matter your situation, no matter your educational attainment, we are diverse in our thinking, in our experiences, and we ought to be able to express that, and folks respect that as well. And so that was very interesting, right? But I also want to say this though too, and he kind of talked about it a little bit there. Let me just say this: I never like to call folks felons. Never like to call folks felons. There are a lot of things all of us have done. If we wore those labels on our back, on our chest, all of our lives, it would be a different world. So I don't like to call folks felons or whatever we have done. They're still humans. They're still people. And that's why I like to say formerly incarcerated to kind of paint the picture. But the economy is a big issue to African-American males. We say nobody's asking men and African-American males. We want to say, well, you need to show up to the polls. And if we don't get the result that we want, then we'll blame males. Well, males aren't coming out. Black women did it all, and I get that, right? But are we talking to these men? The economy is important to men. And I'm gonna tell you, I've talked to black men on the Republican side. I've talked to black men on the Democratic side. And the top issue to most of these men is money. Money, 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 people. Money makes this world go round. If I'm lying, tell me in the comments. Money, am I right or wrong? Does money make the world go round? You can say what you want to say. You can say money is the root of all evil. You can say money is corrupting our world. You can say money needs to be taken out of politics, whatever you want to say. But money make this world go round. The old saying is money talks, BS walks, right? And so when I talk to these African-American men in various places, they say money is most important. The economy. They talk about their 401k. They talk about their stock options. They talk about their small business. They talk about paying for private school for their children, or paying for golf lessons or football lessons and things of that nature. They talk about getting their wife the house that she wants. They talk about buying their wife that different car that they particularly want. And so, we are alarmed at the numbers oftentimes when we see that Donald Trump is attracting black men over to the Republican Party. But I'll tell you from talking to those gentlemen, it is the economy, the focus on the economy, that draws them to that side. Because the policies of Republicans, the policies of Trump, are divisive on the surface. We get distracted with the different gaffes and the different crazy comments that Trump's made. But the economy was booming before coronavirus. And so there are black men who support Trump because of the economy and the money that's going in their pocket to feed their family. Because check it out, if they're not providing for their family, providing for their wives and children and so forth and so on, then for the most part, men feel like they aren't worthy to their family. So the economy is a very important. So I'll tell you, pundits, analysts, everybody, you want to talk to black men, you want to draw them to the polls, talk about the economy. Talk to them about the bottom line. Talk to them about how they can put food on the table. I was about to say food on the family like George W. Bush. Put food on the table, right? Talk about those things. That is extremely important. Like, listen, you know, this is not some big conundrum and some big boogeyman. You talk to black male voters the same way you talk to black women voters, and you talk to any other group. Okay. Even if how do we connect with our young African American, young black male voters? It's not always through hip hop, people. You know, for some young black male voters, going the hip hop route is offensive because they think we all we want to do is gyrate and dance and rap. You know, you look at back in the day, all the McDonald's commercials had us doing is dancing and rapping. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. No, I don't need all that to buy a burger, brother. Is the burger good? Are your fries fresh? Is it just enough ice in my cup? Don't give me too much ice in my drink. Give me light ice in there, right? And so how do you connect with the young African-American male voter? They are intellectual. They are reading the Ta-Nehisi Coates books. They are reading the Isabel Wilkerson text. They are listening to Dr. Cornel West, Eddie Glaude, and other leading thinkers, Tommy Curry, Tiosan Johnson, Marlon Smith, and others. So the young black male voter is not always those who want Jordans or who listen to athletes. And so we have to be complex in how we reach these particular voters. But tell me in the comments, people, in your view, how do you best reach black male voters to get them out to the polls? What is it? Do you talk about family? Do you talk about economy? Do you talk about criminal justice issues? What is it, people? What is it? And I'll tell you another issue. If you want to reach black men, one of the biggest issues that they are dealing with in this country is family situations, custody of their children. I've talked to so many men who are so upset and frustrated with family court, with divorce settlements, with alimony settlements, with visitation agreements and things of that nature. And oftentimes those disagreements can turn ugly and turn into some type of involvement with law enforcement. And so they feel like the long arm of the law is pushing down against them. They feel like men are always going to get the short end of the stick. They just want to be great fathers. They want to provide for their children. Maybe the relationship did not work out with their mother, but they still want to be there with their children. And so if you want to talk to black men, you want to understand their perspective, you got to dive into issues like that. These aren't pretty issues. But how do I know? I don't have any children. So how do I know these things? I've talked to black male voters. And so it's not difficult, people. It is not difficult, right? And so I'd like to see more of a focus from all parties, Green Party, Republican Party, Democratic Party, all parties, to get more laser focus on speaking the language of African American male voters. Now, we turned out in 2008 because we saw a brother that looked just like us with the opportunity to be in the White House. Okay. And I'm going to assume that in this particular election, because the sisters see a woman that looks just like them, they're going to turn out. All right. And I'm not saying brothers won't turn out. But what I'm saying is that I'm not hearing language as I watch the MSNBCs, as I watch the CNNs, as I watch the Fox News, as I watch the Breakfast Clubs and all these other different outlets and conversations. I'm not hearing the conversations geared toward attracting the black male voter. Do they matter? Does the black male voter matter to the prevalent parties? Now, let's talk about it. On the Democratic side, I honestly don't hear any conversation about it. I'm just going to be frank with you. I don't hear any conversation about it. And I think part of that is as we focus on how black women have been neglected in terms of leadership roles, and that's very important. But any time that we're looking to correct something, we oftentimes overcorrect, right? And we go too far over the hill. And we end up, let's think about parenting for a minute here. If you're a parent and you have children and you realize that, hey, you know what? I got 2 children. I've given one child too much attention. Let me go over here and start focusing on this other child, right? And so now I'm focusing on Johnny. And because I'm focusing on Johnny to make sure he is where he needs to be and has the proper attention. Now, Barry feels neglected. Barry doesn't get the attention that he needs to succeed, right? And so how do we balance that? All right, and so that's what I think I'm seeing here. But good leadership says we have to find that, my good brother Andre always says, that sensible center, that middle ground of how we could speak the language to 2 different groups, but still keep everybody connected, holding their hand, listening to our brothers, listening to our sisters, listening to our young people as well. I'll just take a quick moment, point of personal privilege right now, and remind you to read my shirt and make sure you're registered to vote as we talk about the needs of the black male voter. Damien Jones podcast, doing a little solo edition on this great Monday, August 17th. Just had a good bowl of baked beans and chicken wings earlier today. If you appreciate today's conversation, give me a like right now, folks. Let me know in the comments what you think about today's conversation. But I'll tell you what's important for me as a black male voter. For me, number one, it's dignity and respect. It's dignity and respect. What candidate offers black men dignity and respect? I'm coming to that now. Chris Jackson, I see your question. Can you help me better understand that question? I don't understand what you mean. Why do you think black men would go to jail? Give me, if you can clarify that, I'll get to it. I promise I will. Appreciate you. Dignity and respect. Now, Donald Trump on the one hand, that's my African American over there. I didn't like that comment. Don't talk to us as though we are your chattel, your property, something on the side here. Don't address my people like that, right? But then Joe Biden comes over and says, if you don't vote for me, then you ain't black. Woo! Hard to support you, brother, when you're talking like that. I don't like that comment either. So I'm not hearing dignity and respect in those comments. All right. When you only come and talk to our community during election time, or you think the only place that you can find black men is in the barbershop. I have issues with that. Because some of us have a bald head, and so you're not gonna find me in the barbershop. But we are in other places. We are in the churches. We are in the mosques. We are in the synagogue. We are in the schools picking up our children. We are at our corporate places of employment. We are everywhere. And so the dignity and the respect piece, that's important to me. Do you care about our community all the time? Do you speak to our community in a language that is respectful? Don't talk slang to me. Don't get cavalier in your interviews with our community. Talk to black media the same way that you would talk to Morning Joe. Okay? Talk to me, somebody. You know what I'm talking about. And so those are the things, one of the things that I look at. Right? Chris, I see you're coming. I'm coming to it in a second. 2, criminal justice reform is important to me. So that's going to be top of mind for me as I go into make my decision in November. And when you look at the record of all the candidates, let me just say one. There's an independent candidate, Jade Simmons, that we had on this show a few weeks ago, who was outstanding, who was wonderful. If you haven't seen that, go to my website, IamDamienJones.com/DJP, and you'll see that conversation. But in terms of the 2 main candidates, we know Donald Trump's record as it relates to criminal justice reform is not a long record. You got the First Step Act that was shaped by Van Jones, a progressive criminal justice reformer. And so for me, he gained some points in that particular area. But then also you have Joe Biden's record as it relates to criminal justice reform. 1994 crime bill gave incentives for states to lock up particularly black and brown folks for at least 85% of their sentences. And if they did so, then those states would get more funding to build more prisons, which incentivized them to put more bodies in the building. Okay. Put 100,000 more police on the street, 1994 crime bill. He also called young black and brown folks super predators in 1994 crime bill. He also quoted with saying, I don't care how they grew up. I don't care what lack of resources that they attained. I don't care what opportunities they did not have. The fact of the matter is that they need to be locked up and the key thrown away. These are the paraphrased words of Joe Biden in 1994 as he pushed this 1994 crime bill. And so we cannot turn a blind eye to that. We cannot turn a blind eye to that. And so when I look at those different things, the criminal justice reform, those are the things that I review in terms of their record. When I look at the connection to younger African-American voters, where are we? I think that Biden would probably have the edge in that particular area. Not that he's young and spry, but I think having a Kamala Harris helps him in that particular area, because I don't think that a Trump speaks to those younger African-American voters for the most part. I'll tell you one thing though, when I ask Black Republicans, and we have them on our show. I'm not just in a bubble. We talk to Black Republicans, Black Democrats, white Republicans, white Democrats, independents. We talk to everybody because this is a safe space for ideas, the marketplace of ideas, where we respect everybody's view here on the Damien Jones podcast. And I talked to a Black Republican legislator. I talked to a white Republican party chair. I've talked to others. And I said, why do you support Donald Trump? They say he's a man of his word. They say among all the things that he's done, all the things that he said, he's done what it is that he said he would do. Tax cuts, done. Border wall, doing. First Step Act, done. And so from their standpoint, they look past some of the crazy stuff. Federal benches filled. So they look past some of the crazy stuff. And they say, is he a man of his word? Now, can we say that about a Joseph R. Biden? Is he a man of his word? I can't give you deep analysis on that. And so I won't try to do that and tear him down any type of way. Only maybe those who lived during that particular time can say maybe Joe made some promises. I can't say that in full confidence. So I won't particularly say that he's not a man of his word there. But these are the issues that we're facing. So let me go to Chris's comment here. Question. Someone said, if the economy is down, more black men would go to jail. Black men don't have to go to jail in a down economy. I can't speak to that. And so, as we talk about this Democratic National Convention, people, that is kicking off tonight, I know a lot of you are excited. If you're excited about the Democratic National Convention tonight, let us know in the comments and tell me what you're looking forward to as well. But let me say this one thing. This speakers list from the Democratic National Convention is a good list. It's a good list. But there are two things that stand out to me that I don't like. There are two things, two people on this list that I don't like. One, Bill Clinton should not speak at the Democratic National Convention. He should not. He should not. For what? What is he going to say that we haven't heard before? What base is he energizing? We see across the spectrum, there's a cry for more progressive ideas in this country. There's a cry to uplift young people. There's a cry to get away from centrist ideas and embrace a more modern world. And Bill Clinton represents none of that. On top of the fact that he just disrespected Michael a few weeks ago. And so this tells me that Democrats are continue to be tone deaf. Continue to be tone deaf. Now, I understand Hillary being there. Your last nominee arguably got cheated out of it, represents a lot to women. But I don't know what men are energized by seeing Bill Clinton. Young people? No. Black men? God, no. Who? Why is Bill Clinton there? That could have been a spot for an African-American man or woman. A Latinx man or woman. But you still put same old same, status quo on the stage. These are the problems, people. And this is why Democrats should be worried going into November, because you're still stuck in the Stone Ages. Still stuck in the Stone Ages, right? And so Bill Clinton has a platform, but then your most popular progressive Democrat in the country had to beg for 60 seconds. AOC. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me, people? AOC, Netflix documentary, wildly popular for young Americans, energizing and inspiring young Americans to get involved in the process, right? Raising money from a digital standpoint more than anybody in the country. Leader of the squad, Ayanna Pressley, AOC, and the other young ladies, right? All those women, are pushing back against the status quo. Nancy Pelosi, the establishment, and still winning because there's a Democratic small d progressive awakening happening in this country, being led by the AOCs, Ayanna Presley's, and others, Cori Bush's and others in this country. But the Democratic Party says, let's give her 60 seconds and get her out of the way. But let's give Bill Clinton 3, 4, 5 minutes. This is a problem, people. Problematic. And so you say, why are young people saying, well, I'm going to sit it out? Because you aren't uplifting and supporting their candidates who speak their language. Give AOC 5 minutes and she'll tear the house down. And you'll have young people running to the polls. You're alienating the Bernie base. And that's all this convention looks like from a speaker standpoint. Centrist ideas, neoliberal ideas, same old same. Prehistoric practices. Meanwhile, Trump's playing by a very modern playbook. Not playing by a prehistoric playbook. Not one bit. Now I don't agree with a lot of the tactics that he's using, but he's not playing by the prehistoric playbook. AOC gets 60 seconds. John Kasich, a Republican, gets 2 minutes. Talk to me, people. Am I crazy? Am I tripping? Am I tripping? Tell me in the comments if I'm tripping here. Tell me. And so these are the type of things that really churn the stomach and turn off a black male voter. These are the type of things. These are the type of things. And so I just wanted to share those particular things with you all today. Tell me what you think in the comments. What are you looking forward to in this convention tonight? Now, listen, I'm excited to hear from President Obama. I'm excited to hear from, First Lady Michelle Obama. You know, I'm excited to hear from those folks. I'm excited to hear from Stacey Abrams. I know they have a Young Rising Stars kind of keynote situation, I think Tuesday night as well. I'm excited to hear from the new wing of the party. Listen, Nancy Pelosi, James Clyburn, all those kind of young, seasoned leaders. Steny Hoyer, one of my favorites. But here's the problem. Where's the progression? Where's the development? Where's the succession plan? Now is the time to begin to turn this corner and really give a platform to the younger voter who is the future of America. You know, for all we know, AOC may run for president in 24 or 28. Got to prepare. We got to give these folks a platform and stop fighting change, people. And if we want to embrace change, if we want to embrace progress, Bill Clinton should not be speaking at the convention. There should be somebody else that they can give that spot to. Hell, call me. I'll speak. I'll give you 30 seconds. You know, I'll give you a little something. But it's the same old same. And that is turning off the educated black male voter, the black male voter who has been incarcerated, the religious black male voter, the black male voter who loves his children, devout father, and is having some challenges within the court system, the young college age black male voter. These are the things that are turning them off. Embracing the status quo. Listen, Bill Clinton was elected president when I was in 2nd grade. And I'm no spring chicken, people. If that's the case, let's give Jimmy Carter 5 minutes too. Then, since we're doing it, let's give Jimmy Carter 5 minutes. Right? Yeah, way too many folks. Here we go. Thank you, Michael. Way too many folks over 70 years old in Washington. Way too many folks We need term limits, people. We need term limits. Tell me in the comments, do you believe in term limits? Yes or no? Do you believe in term limits? Now, for the most part of every job, you retire after 20 years. 20 years you retire. 20 years, you should be able to do everything you need to do in 20 years. And then you take your pension, you take your 401k, and you ride off in the sunset, and you enjoy your family, play golf, whatever have you. But it seems like in Congress, it seems like in Washington, it seems like in these elected positions, 20 years isn't enough. They need 40 years, 50 years to do absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. If you hadn't got it done in 20 years, give somebody else a shot. Hang your hat up, say, hey, I tried my best. I gave him my best shot, but I think it's time for me to pass the baton, right? And here's what I've always learned what leadership is. All the books that I've read, they said leadership is not what you do. It's what you've developed and taught others to do that come behind you. And if you're still sitting in elected office after 35 years, 40 years, and you're still fighting and clawing for a spot, well, you probably ain't as effective as you think you are. Maybe you were at one point, but now it's time to pass the baton. And so that's why you see these young people in the streets protesting, lifting their voice, frustrated, angry, because it's been the same thing over and over. 1963, the cry was jobs and justice. Jesse Jackson ran for president in the 80s. The cry was jobs and justice. Farrakhan did a march in 2015. The cry was jobs and justice. And here we are in 2020, my good friends. And the cry is still jobs and justice. But the common denominator is the same politicians in the same places. And here's what they do. Here's the playbook, people. Here's the playbook. Damien Jones podcast. Thank you all for joining me. Here's the playbook. They play politics. They said we got a deal done. We got a deal. We struck a deal. Bipartisanship. All right, got a deal done. 10 years, 15 years down the road, 20 years down the road, you see the unintended consequences of making that deal, which oftentimes disproportionately and viciously affects Black and brown and poor people. And then what they do is apologize. I'm sorry. And sometimes they don't even apologize. They say I would do things differently. Joe Biden still hasn't apologized for the 1994 crime bill. Bill Clinton did. I give him credit. He still shouldn't be on stage at the convention, but he did apologize and said we were wrong. I give him credit for that. Joe Biden still hasn't apologized. He said I would do some things differently. That ain't an apology. Men, say that to your wife and see if she accepts that as an apology. No, you got to say I'm sorry. And they use the fake apology when it's politically expedient. Like, remember Bloomberg, stop and frisk, violating the civil rights of hundreds of thousands of African Americans and Hispanic folks, poor people in New York. Stop and frisk, vicious, deemed unconstitutional. You didn't hear a peep about that, any remorse about that policy until he got ready to run for president. Then it was, I was wrong. Then he started handing out big checks. And guess what? Black folks lined up. Oh, we forgive him. Oh, he's a good man. Let me take your check. That's what I'm talking about, dignity and respect right there. We got to have dignity and respect for ourselves, but we also got to demand it to make sure folks don't treat us any kind of way just for a check. And so they apologize, and we just forget everything that's ever been done. And then we're back to square one. Back to square one. Because we're so forgiving. We just accept any apology. And they know they can just show up to the fish fry. They can do the two-step. And you cool. And we'll accept them. The time is done for those type of politics in this country. The time is done for that type of engagement with our people. We talk about, oh, let's choose the lesser of two evils. The Bible talks about evil. Nowhere in the Bible does it say accept evil. We've been accepting and holding our nose for evil for years and years and years to come. If we say that Trump is evil, if we say that Biden is evil, it depends on who you talk to. Why would we accept it? I had this thought this morning when I woke up, and I'm gonna get out of this and get out of here. Thank y'all for joining me, Damien Jones podcast. We're at a low point in America. We're at a very low point in America. We're at an all-time low in America. When our choices for president is Joe Biden and Donald Trump, we're at all-time low. We're at an all-time low. And whose fault is it, people? Ours. Because we've allowed it. We've accepted it. We've allowed the dancing at the fish fry. We've allowed the write the big checks. We allowed the demeaning comments and laugh it off. We've allowed that. And that's how we get a reality star as our president. That's how we get a law and order guy running for president. Let's stop accepting evil, people. Let's stop accepting evil. Well, those are our only options. No. You can also say, hey, I don't want to participate in this. You can vote down ballot. Or you could find whatever good you can find in it. But my point is, we're at an all-time low. And so what we need to do, and the brother said it before he signed off, Bruno said it, we've got to start developing the candidates that we want, the type of candidate that we want that's not connected to segregation, that's not connected to busing, segregated busing, that's not connected to discriminatory housing practices, that's not connected to election rigging and foreign interference. We can do better as a country. We can do better as an electorate. And I hope we learn our lesson from this time around, because we can do better as in terms of candidates. These are not stellar candidates. And don't give me that everybody's not perfect. I understand that. But these are some horrible candidates. Joe Biden is a horrible candidate. Donald Trump is a horrible candidate. And these are the choices that we have because this is what we have allowed. But make your choice in November. Do as my shirt says, vote. Make sure you are registered to vote. Make sure everybody in your house is registered to vote. They go make a decision on a national level. More importantly, at the local level, because all politics is local. State representatives, state Senate, U.S. Senate, county commission, city council, school board, mud district, whatever have you. Those folks matter as well. And that's where you're going to see the most impact in your community. But until next time, hope there was a good conversation with you. I appreciate my brothers, Kevin Bruno, Damien Walker, tuning in to us. Give us a like right now as well. Appreciate your conversation. Appreciate your comments as well. Make sure you are following us on Facebook. Make sure you're subscribing on YouTube as well. And make sure you are registered to vote, my friends. Appreciate you. Damien Jones Podcast. Until next time, continue to live your life with intensity, integrity, and intelligence.